Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada. We read Srila Prabhupada's books every day, 365 days a year, except if I'm on a long-haul flight, which is only a couple of days a year. So welcome, and without further ado, because we're a little late today, we're going to start right in hearing the prayers of Sanatana Goswami to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, taking us deeper and deeper into what it actually means, what we're doing, what the Srimad-Bhagavatam is. And it goes like this: the Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, texts 412 through 416 by Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it goes like this: Sarva Shastra Vijiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Nitya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Mandastarka Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Sadhutadayin Adinichuchatakara Hanamunchagadachin Mam Premna Ritkanta Yospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're actually hearing about who Dhritarashtra was and why he became a demon. And in a previous life, he was Citraketu Maharaj, who was a very pious and powerful king of the whole world. And he was lamenting for only one thing: he didn't have a son. And he finally, by the grace of Angira Muni, got a son. But he got a son based on a kind of a benediction. And Angira told him that the son would be a source of great jubilation and great suffering. So the king thought, well, blind son is better than none, so okay, go ahead with the sacrifice. So now the co-wives were very envious, and they put poison to the child, and he died. And Citraketu and the mother are now lamenting. And that's where we are. Canto 6, chapter 14, text, starting with text 57. My dear son, this is the mother, the wife of Citraketu, speaking. My dear son, you have slept a long time. Now please get up. Your playmates are calling you to play. Since you must be very hungry, please get up and suck my breast and dissipate our lamentation. 58. My dear son, I am certainly most unfortunate, for I can no longer see your mild smiling. You have closed your eyes forever. I therefore conclude that you have been taken from this planet to another, from which you will not return. My dear son, I can no longer hear your pleasing voice. Text 59. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued. Accompanied by his wife, who was thus lamenting for her dead son, King Citraketu began crying loudly with an open mouth, being greatly aggrieved. 60. As the king and queen lamented, all their male and female followers joined them in crying. Because of this sudden accident, all the citizens of the kingdom were almost unconscious. 61. When the great sage Angira understood that the king was almost dead in an ocean of lamentation, he went there with Narada Rishi. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 14th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled King Citraketu's Lamentation. Chapter 15. The saints, Narada and Angira, instruct King Citraketu. In this chapter, Angira, along with Narada, consoles Citraketu as far as possible. Angira and Narada Rishi came to relieve the king from excessive lamentation by instructing him about the spiritual significance of life. The great saints, Angira and Narada, explained that the relationship between father and son is not factual. It is simply a representation of the illusory energy. The relationship did not exist before, nor will it stay in the future. By the arrangement of time, the relationship exists only in the present. One should not lament for temporary relationships. The entire cosmic manifestation is temporary. Although not unreal, it is not factual. By the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything created in the material world is transient, including our thoughts. By a temporary arrangement, a father begets a child, or a living entity becomes the child of a so-called father. This temporary arrangement is made by the Supreme Lord. Neither the father nor the son exists independently. As the king listened to the great sages, he was relieved from his false lamentation. And then he inquired about their identity. The great sages presented who they were and instructed that all sufferings are due to the bodily conception of life. When one understands his spiritual identity and surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Person, one becomes actually happy. When one searches for happiness in matter, one must certainly lament for body relationships. Self-realization means spiritual realization of one's relationship with Krishna. Such realization ends one's miserable material life. Text 1. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, while King Citraketu, overcome by lamentation, lay like a dead body at the side of the dead body of his son, the two great sages, Narada and Angira, instructed him about spiritual consciousness as follows. Text 2. O king, what relationship does the dead body for which you lament have with you? And what relationship do you have with him? You may say that you are now related as father and son, but do you think this relationship existed before? Does it truly exist now? Will it continue in the future? Purport. The instructions given by Narada and Angira Muni are the true spiritual instructions for the illusioned, conditioned soul. This world is temporary, but because of our previous karma, we come here and accept bodies, creating temporary relationships in terms of society, friendship, love, nationality, and community, which are all finished at death. These temporary relationships did not exist in the past, nor will they exist in the future. Therefore, at the present moment, the so-called relationships are illusions. 3. O King, as small particles of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the forces of the waves, the living entities who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and are sometimes separated by the force of time. Purport. The misunderstanding of the conditioned soul is the bodily conception of life. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is spiritual understanding. Unfortunately, one who is in ignorance, under the spell of material illusion, accepts the body to be the self. He cannot understand that the body is matter. Like small particles of sand, bodies come together and are separated by the force of time, and people falsely lament for unification and separation. Unless one knows this, there is no question of happiness. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, this is the first instruction given by the Lord. Dehinosmin yata dehe komadam yomanam jara tatadihantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. We are not the body. We are spiritual beings trapped in the body. Our real interest lies in understanding this simple fact. Then we can make further spiritual progress. Otherwise, if we remain in the bodily conception of life, our miserable material existence will continue forever. Political adjustments, social welfare work, medical assistance, and the other programs we have manufactured for peace and happiness will never endure. We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life, one after another. Therefore, material life is said to be dukhalayam ashasvatam. It is a reservoir of material conditions. Text 4. When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants, and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile, and the sowing of seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Purport. Maharaj Citraketu was not actually destined to get a son. Therefore, although he married hundreds and thousands of wives, all of them proved barren, and he could not beget even one child. When Angira Rishi came to see the king requested the great sage to enable him to have at least one son. Because of the blessing of Angira Rishi, a child was sent by the grace of Maya, but the child was not to live for long. Therefore, in the beginning, Angira Rishi told the king that he would beget a child who would cause jubilation and lamentation. King Citraketu was not destined to get a child by providence or the will of the Supreme. Just as a sterile grain cannot produce more grain, a sterile person, by the will of the Supreme Lord, cannot beget a child. Sometimes a child is born even to an impotent father and sterile mother, and sometimes a potent father and fertile mother is childless. Indeed, sometimes a child is born despite contraceptive methods, and therefore the parents kill the child in the womb. In the present age, killing of children in the womb has become a common practice. Why? When contraceptive methods are taken, why don't they act? Why is a child sometimes produced so that the father and mother have to kill it in the womb? We must conclude that our arrangement of so-called scientific knowledge cannot determine what will take place. What is enacted actually depends on the Supreme Will. It is by the Supreme Will that we are situated in certain conditions in terms of family, community, and personality. These are all arrangements of the Supreme Lord according to our desires under the spell of Maya, illusion. In devotional life, therefore, one should not desire anything, since everything depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanavritam anukul yena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Lord, Krishna, favorably, and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. One should act only to develop Krishna consciousness. For everything else, one should fully depend on the Supreme Person. We should not create plans that will ultimately make us frustrated. Text 5. O King, both you and we, your advisors, wives and ministers, as well as everything moving and not moving throughout the entire cosmos at this time, are in a temporary situation. Before our birth, this situation did not exist, and after our death, it will exist no longer. Therefore, our situation now is temporary, although it is not false. Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman, the living being, is factual, but his present bodily situation is false. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, however, the present situation is not false, but temporary. It is like a dream. A dream does not exist before one falls asleep, nor does it continue after one awakens. The period for dreaming exists only between these two, and therefore it is false in the sense that it is impermanent. Similarly, the entire material creation, including our own creation of those of others and those of others, is impermanent. We do not lament for the situation in a dream or during a dreamlike situation. We do not lament for the situation in a dream before the dream takes place or after it is over. And so during the dream or during a dreamlike situation, one should not accept it as factual and lament about it. This is real knowledge. Text 6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master and proprietor of everything, is certainly not interested in the temporary cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, just as a boy at the beach creates something in which he is not interested, the Lord, keeping everything under his control, causes creation, maintenance, and annihilation. He creates by engaging a father to beget a son. He maintains by engaging a government or king to see to the public's welfare. And he annihilates through agents for killing, such as snakes. The agents for creation, maintenance, and annihilation have no independent potency. But because of the spell of the illusory energy, one thinks himself the creator, maintainer, and annihilator. Purport. No one can independently create, maintain, or annihilate. Bhagavad Gita 3.27 therefore says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. Prakriti, material nature, as directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, induces all living entities to create, maintain, or annihilate according to the modes of nature. But the living entity, without knowledge of the Supreme Person and his agent, the material energy, thinks that he is the doer. In fact, he is not at all the doer. As an agent of the Supreme Doer, the Supreme Lord, one should abide by the Lord's orders. The present chaotic conditions of the world are due to the ignorance of leaders who forget that they have been appointed to act by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they have been appointed by the Lord, their duty is to consult the Lord and act accordingly. The book for consultation is Bhagavad Gita, in which the Supreme Lord gives directions. Therefore, those who are engaged in creation, maintenance, and annihilation should consult the Supreme Person, who has appointed them, and should act accordingly. Then everyone will be satisfied, and there will be no disturbances. Text 7. As from one seed another seed is generated, O King, so from one body, the body of the Father, through another body, the body of the Mother, a third body is generated, the body of the Son. As the elements of the material body are eternal, the living entity who appears through these material elements is also eternal. Purport. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand that there are two energies, namely the superior energy and the inferior energy. The living entity, who represents the superior energy, appears in different types of bodies through these elements by the manipulation of supervision of the material energy. Actually, both the material and spiritual energies, matter and spirit, exist eternally as potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The potent entity is the Supreme Person. Since the spiritual energy, the living being, who is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, desires to enjoy this material world, the Lord gives him a chance to accept different types of material bodies and enjoy or suffer in different material conditions. Factually, the spiritual energy, the living entity who desires to enjoy material things, is manipulated by the Supreme Lord. The so-called father and mother have nothing to do with the living entity. As a result of his own choice and karma, the living being takes different bodies through the agency of so-called fathers and mothers. Text 8. Divisions of generalization and specification, such as nationality and individuality, are the imaginations of persons who are not advanced in knowledge. Purport. Actually, there are two energies, material and spiritual. Both of them are ever existing because they are emanations from the eternal truth, the Supreme Lord. Because the individual soul, the individual living entity, has desired to act in forgetfulness of his original identity since time immemorial, he is accepting different positions in material bodies and being designated according to many divisions of nationality, community, society, species, and so on. Text 9. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus enlightened by the instructions of Narada and Angira, King Citraketu became hopeful with knowledge. Wiping his shriveled face with his hand, the king began to speak. There we are. Text 10. King Citraketu said, you have both come here dressed like avadutas, liberated persons, just to cover your identities. But I see that of all men, you are the most elevated in awareness. You know everything as it is. Therefore, you are the greatest of all personalities. Text 11. Brahmanas who are exalted to the position of Vaishnavas, the most dear servants of Krishna, sometimes dress like madmen, just to benefit materialists like us, who are always attached to sense gratification, and just to dissipate our ignorance. These Vaishnavas wander on the surface of the globe according to their desire. 12 to 15. O great souls, I have heard that among the great and perfect persons wandering the surface of the earth to instruct knowledge to people covered by ignorance are Sanat Kumara, Narada, Ribu, Angira, Devala, Asita, Apantaratma, Vyasadeva, Markandeya, Gautama, Vashishta, Bhagavan Parashuram, Kapila, Shukadev, Durvasa, Yajnavalkya, Jatukarna, and Aruni. Others are Ramasha, Chaivana, Dattatreya, Asuri, Patanjali, the great sage Domya, who was like the head of the Vedas, the sage Panchashika, Hiranyaba, Kaushalya, Shruti and Ritatbhaj. You must certainly be among them. I mean, Angira, he said the word Angira. Purport. The word Jnana Hetava is very significant because great personalities like those listed in these verses wander on the surface of the globe not to mislead the populace but to distribute real knowledge. Without this knowledge, human life is wasted. The human form of life is meant for realization of one's relationship with Krishna or God. One who lacks this knowledge is categorized among the animals. The Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Namam duskritino bodha prapadyante naradamaha mayaya paritagyana asuram bhavam ashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Ignorance is the bodily conception of life. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridatuke saeva gokaraha. Practically everyone throughout the universe, especially on this planet, Burloka, thinks that there is no separate existence of the body and the soul, and therefore no need of self-realization. But that is not a fact. Therefore, all the Brahmanas listed here, being devotees, travel all over the world to awaken Krishna consciousness in the hearts of such foolish materialists. The acharyas mentioned in these verses are described in the Mahabharata. The word Panchashika is also important. One who was liberated from the conceptions of Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya, and who was perfectly aware of the subtle coverings of the soul, is called Panchashika. According to the statements of the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva, chapters 218 to 219, an acharya named Panchashika took birth in the family of Maharaj Janaka, the ruler of Mithila, The Sankhya philosophers accept Panchashikacharya as one of them. Real knowledge pertains to the living entity dwelling within the body. Unfortunately, because of ignorance, the living entity identifies himself with the body and therefore feels pleasure and pain. Text 16. Because you are great personalities, you can give me real knowledge. I am as foolish as a village animal, like a pig or dog, because I am merged in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, please ignite the torch of knowledge to save me. Purport. This is the way to receive knowledge. One must submit oneself to the lotus feet of great personalities who can actually deliver transcendental knowledge. It is therefore said, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. Only one who is actually eager to receive knowledge, to eradicate the darkness of ignorance, is eligible to approach a guru or spiritual master. The guru should not be approached for material benefits. One should not approach a guru just to cure some disease or receive some miraculous benefits. This is not the way to approach the guru. Tad vijnanartam. One should approach the guru to understand the transcendental science of spiritual life. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are many bogus gurus who display magic to their disciples, and many foolish disciples want to see such magic for material benefits. These disciples are not interested in pursuing spiritual life to save themselves from the darkness of ignorance. It is said, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. This gives the definition of the Guru. Everyone is in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, everyone needs to be enlightened with transcendental knowledge. One who enlightens his disciple and saves him from rotting in the darkness of ignorance in this material world is a true Guru. Text 17. Angira said, My dear king, when you desired to have a son, I approached you. Indeed, I am the same Angira Rishi who gave you this son. As for this Rishi, he is the great sage Narada, the direct son of Lord Brahma. It's interesting, huh? It seems like he was in a different form than he was when he came and gave the son. Seems like it. My dear son, when you desired to have a son, I approached you. Indeed, I am the same Angira Rishi who gave you this son. Interesting. As for this Rishi, he is the great sage Narada, the direct son of Lord Brahma. Text 18 and 19.
Is he introducing himself and Narada?
Yeah, because he asked him. You're wandering around like madmen. So that means they disguise themselves. Or he was so bewildered that he couldn't even see straight. Sometimes when you're bewildered, anybody notice that? Sometimes when you're bewildered, you can't see straight. You can't see things right. You kind of like get confused and My dear king, you are an advanced devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be absorbed in lamentation for the loss of something material is unsuitable for a person like you. Therefore, we have both come to relieve you from this false lamentation, which is due to your being merged in the darkness of ignorance. For those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge, to be affected by material loss and gain is not at all desirable. Purport. Several words in this verse are very important. The word Mahapurusha refers to advanced devotees and also to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maha means the Supreme, and Purusha means person. One who always engages in the service of the Supreme Lord is called Mahapurushika. Citraketu Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit are sometimes addressed as Mahapurushika. A devotee should always aspire to engage in the service of advanced devotees. As Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Tandira Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanivas, Janami Janami Hoy E Abhilas. A devotee should always aspire to live in the association of advanced devotees and engage in the service of the Lord through the Parampara system. One should serve the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the instructions of the great Goswamis of Vrindavan. This is called Tandira Charana Sevi. While serving the lotus feet of the Goswamis, one should live in the association of devotees. Bhakta Sanivas. This is the business of a devotee. A devotee should not aspire for material profit or lament for material loss. When Angira Rishi and Narada saw that Maharaj Citraketu, an advanced devotee, had fallen in the darkness of ignorance and was lamenting for the material body of his son, by their causeless mercy, they came to advise him so that he could be saved from this ignorance. Another significant word is Brahmanya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes addressed by the prayer Namo Brahmanya Devaya, which offers obeisances unto the Lord because he is served by the devotees. Therefore, this verse states, Brahmanyo Bhagavad Bhakto Navasaditam Arasi. This is the symptom of an advanced devotee. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. For a devotee, an advanced self-realized soul, there is no cause for material jubilation or lamentation. He is always transcendental to conditional life. Text 20. When I first came to your home, I should have given you the supreme transcendental knowledge. But when I saw that your mind was absorbed in material things, I gave you only a son, who caused you jubilation and lamentation. And remember, he told him so. 21 and 23. My dear king, now you are actually experiencing the misery of a person who has sons and daughters. O king, owner of the state of Shurasena, one's wife, his house, the opulence of his kingdom, and his various other opulences and objects of sense perception are all the same in that they are temporary. One's kingdom, military power, treasury, servants, ministers, friends, and relatives are all causes of fear, illusion, lamentation, and distress. They are like a Gandharva Nagara, a non-existent palace that one imagines to exist in the forest. Because they are impermanent, they are no better than illusions, dreams, and mental concoctions. So when we get illusion and depressed and bewildered, it's all because of our mind. We're imagining things in our mind. We need to be trained. We need to learn not to chase after them when they come. Purport. This verse describes the entanglement of material existence. In material existence, the living entity possesses many things. The material body, children, wife, and so on, deha patya kalatradishu. One may think that these will give him protection. But that is impossible. In spite of all these possessions, the spirit soul has to give up his present situation and accept another. The next situation may be unfavorable, but even if it is favorable, one must give it up and again accept another body. In this way, one's tribulation in material existence continues. A sane man should be perfectly aware that these things will never be able to give him happiness. One must be situated in his spiritual identity and eternally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a devotee. Angira Rishi and Narada Muni gave this instruction to Maharaj Citraketu. Text 24. These visible objects like wife, children, and property are like dreams and mental concoctions. Actually, what we see has no permanent existence. It is sometimes seen and sometimes not. Only because of our past actions do we create such mental concoctions. And because of these concoctions, we perform further activities. Purport. Everything material is a mental concoction because it is sometimes visible and sometimes not. At night, when we dream of tigers and snakes, they are not actually present, but we are afraid because we are affected by what we envision in our dreams. Everything material is like a dream because it actually has no permanent existence. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes as follows in his commentary. At night, one dreams of tigers and snakes, and while dreaming, he actually sees them. But as soon as the dream is broken, they no longer exist. Similarly, the material world is a creation of our mental concoctions. We have to come to this material world to enjoy material resources, and by mental concoction, we discover many, many objects of enjoyment because our minds are absorbed in material things. This is why we receive various bodies. According to our mental concoctions, we work in various ways, desiring various achievements. And by nature, and by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, karmana, daiva, netrena, we get the advantages we desire. Thus we become more and more involved with material concoctions. This is the reason for our suffering in the material world. By one kind of activity, we create another, and they are all products of mental concoction. Text 25. Nobody can write like that. Only a liberated soul can write like that. 25. The living entity in the bodily conception of life.
Coming back.
Okay, good. The living entity in the bodily conception of life is absorbed in the body, which is a combination of the physical elements, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 senses of action, along with the mind. Through the mind, the living entity suffers 3 kinds of tribulations: adibhautika, adidaivaka, and adhyatmaka. Therefore, this body is a source of all miseries. Purport. In the 5th canto, 554, while instructing his sons, Rishabhadev, asan api kleshada asadeyaha. The body, although temporary, is the cause of all the miseries of material existence. As already discussed in the previous verse, the entire material creation is based on mental concoction. The mind sometimes induces us to think that if we purchase an automobile, we can enjoy the physical elements, such as earth, water, air, and fire, combined in the forms of iron, plastic, petrol, and so on. Working with the 5 material elements, panchabhutas, as well as with our 5 knowledge-gathering senses, like the ears, eyes, ears, and tongue, and our 5 active senses like the hands and legs, we become involved in the material condition. Thus we are subjected to the tribulations known as adhyatmika, adidaivika, and adibhautika. The mind is the center because the mind creates all these things. As soon as the material object is struck, however, the mind is affected and we suffer. Have you ever had that experience? You're thinking about what it's going to be like when you go someplace or meet somebody, right? And you get all these, yeah, it's going to be like this. Then you get there and it's like, oh, it's nothing like I thought. That's what it means by mental concoction. As soon as the material object is struck, however, the mind is affected and we suffer. For example, with the material elements, the working senses and the knowledge-gathering senses, we create a very nice car. And when the car is accidentally smashed in a collision, the mind suffers, and through the mind, the living entity suffers. In the Great Depression, when the stock market crashed, all these big guys, they thought they were lost, so they jumped out of the windows of the skyscraper buildings, literally, because they were thinking they were their money. They had no existence, big guys. The fact is that the living entity, while concocting with the mind, creates the material condition. Because matter is destructible, through the material condition, the living entity suffers. Otherwise, the living entity is detached from all material conditions. When one comes to the Brahman platform, the platform of spiritual life, fully understanding that he is a spiritual soul, aham brahmasmi, he is no longer affected by lamentation or hankering. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahma bhuta prasanatma nashochati nakankshati. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments, nor desires to have anything. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15:7, the Lord says, Mamaibhangsho jiva loke jiva bhutak sanatanaha manak shashkanindriyani prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. The living entity is actually part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is unaffected by material conditions. Because the mind, manak, is affected, the senses are affected. And the living entity struggles for existence within this material world. 26. Therefore, O King Citraketu, carefully consider the position of the Atma. In other words, try to understand who you are, whether body, mind, or soul. Consider where you have come from, where you are going after giving up this body, and why you were under the control of material lamentation. Try to understand your real position in this way, And then you will be able to give up your unnecessary attachment. You will also be able to give up the belief that this material world or anything not directly in touch with the service to Krishna is eternal. Thus, you will obtain peace. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement is factually endeavoring to bring human society to a sober condition. Because of a misdirected civilization, people are jumping in materialistic life like cats and dogs, performing all sorts of abominable, sinful actions, like attacking Sankirtan devotees, and becoming increasingly entangled, getting thrown in jail. This Krishna consciousness movement includes self-realization because one is first directed by Lord Krishna to understand that one is not the body, but the owner of the body. When one understands this simple fact, he can direct himself toward the goal of life. Because people are not educated in terms of the goal of life, they are working like madmen and becoming more and more attached to the material atmosphere. The misguided man accepts the material condition as everlasting. One must give up his faith in material things and give up attachment for them. Then one will be sober and peaceful. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narada Muni ki jai. Angira Muni ki jai. All the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Tried to get away, but he couldn't. That's because you're dependent on your dad. See? Where he goes, you go. Okay, we'll stop here for tonight. Yes?
There's only one more page.
One more page? Let's go for it. Shall we? Last time that somebody should have told me that. We only had 2 verses, then we went to... Hey, thanks. Text 27. Wow, Narada Muni. The great sage Narada said, "My dear king, attentively receive from me a mantra which is most auspicious. By accepting it from me, in 7 nights, you will be able to see the Lord face to face." Text 28. My dear king, in former days, Lord Shiva and other demigods took shelter of the lotus feet of Sankarshan. Thus they immediately got free from the illusion of duality and achieved unequaled and unsurpassed glories in spiritual life. You will very soon attain that very same position. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 6th canto, 15th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled "The Saints Narada and Angira Instruct King Citraketu." Harilo! Hare Krishna. Well, I was having a kind of a reflection all the way through. I'd like to just share it before I forget it, because that's the nature of the material world time. I couldn't help but notice that, these things are so obvious. And yet, the Bhagavatam is like a whole bunch of this instruction, like put together, coming up to 10th canto, and even in the 10th canto it's there. Why is it repeated again and again and again? I was thinking, now I understand why people and even devotees stop reading Prabhupada's books. Because it's right in your face. You can't read these books without getting the truth and being exposed to what we are and what we think and why we're, always bewildered and, nasty or sloppy or whatever we are, That's my thought for the day. Let those who have ears hear, somebody said. If we don't feel jolly when we hear this, then we're still in Maya. And not just because you're in Maya, you should just, fold up the tent and go away. Right? Isn't it?
I had a question. It was in one of the purports. It listed Anamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. Could you elaborate on what those are?
These are different states of consciousness, the development of consciousness. Anamaya means food. So a person who is in Anamaya, all they think about is food. A baby, when you give a baby anything, immediately they put it into their mouth. It's not even food, it could be anything. Just, give them a little thing. They put it in their mouth immediately. That's Anamaya. What was the second one?
Pranamaya.
Pranamaya means that you become aware that you exist apart from somebody else, that you're an independent person. The little kid, after a while, gets the sense that, oh yeah, now all of a sudden he's got a brother, or a mother and a father, and then he has to deal with it. Other living beings, and they don't always, do what I want, and then I have to learn to deal with it. That's pranamaya. But that's all that exists, it's just that, trying to work out, how to get what we want and, all those things. And what's the third one? Jnanamaya?
There was Manomaya.
Manomaya means the mind. Manomaya, that means we start wondering, trying to figure it out. We try to start figuring things out. How we can improve this or that or whatever.
I'm trying to find the rest of them. There was, I think, 6.
Jnanamaya. And Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya.
Yeah, I don't know. What are those?
Well, Vijnana means that one wakes up to the point that one realizes one wants to know what's going on. Starts to search, starts to question. Why am I suffering? One of the purports that talked about the train of thought. Why am I suffering? Where did I come from? What's going on here?
I just read it last night.
Huh, where was it?
It's in the Prayers of the Personified Deities. I actually think it's text 15. Actually, I studied it last night because I wanted to brush up on these. Yeah, the difference between Manamoy and Vijnanamoy. Manamoy is on the mental platform, but Vijnanamoy is when they realize that they're not the body.
Yes. That's when they start to question material existence. And then Anandamaya. That means when you become realized and you start to taste pleasure that comes not from the material energy, but from the soul. And that is perfected in devotional service when you come in contact with the source of Ananda. So what's in your wallet? Oh. What platform are you on? And the material energy is so strong, we're so puffed up. We get a little knowledge and we think we're beyond all that. But the least little thing happens and we're again, lamenting and, bewildered and seeing friends and enemies and disliking that one and liking that one and wanting to go away. Sound familiar? No, it doesn't. Not me. I don't think I'll read these books anymore.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, Dr. Damodar Ji.
Some realization while following you in the reading, when they say the great soul who wandering the surface of the earth to instruct knowledge to the people covered by ignorance, then I immediately thought of you, that you coming from Govardhan and reading and distributing this knowledge to us. I had the book for 8-9 years now, but this is the first time the wrapper is coming out. It was like wrapped in a plastic sheet for all these years, just to protect it.
Well, thanks. I take that as a great encouragement, so I'll keep doing what I'm doing.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Shobha told me the same thing. She was trying to read these books and she couldn't do it.
And not more than 2 cantos. After that, you give up and then start after 6 months from canto 1 because you forgot everything.
Yeah, you have to have the association of devotees who are attached. But what I was thinking also, I had another reflection while I was, because we have new people in the room, and sometimes I see people looking at me like that, like, you see my guru, or, like that. And I was thinking, when a person first comes to Krishna consciousness movement, they shouldn't look right away for their guru. They should read these books. I had somebody, one of the senior people of this movement, who had a Bhakti Briksha member who was thinking about who to get initiation from, and the leader of the group was wondering whether or not that they should aspire for this certain person. So they came to me. He just came to me and he said, and he talked to me as if I should either talk the person out of or into one person or another. And I looked at him and I said, what are you doing? Then I looked at the person he was talking about and I said, have you read Prabhupada's books yet? He said, no. Duh. If you read Prabhupada's books, you get enlightened, because he is the founder Acharya of this movement. He's the Angira, he's the Narada of this planet at this time. He's on that level. Just by hearing his words, you can become enlightened if you are honest and sincere. That's all you need to be, is honest and sincere. And brave enough to reject Maya, reject these false impressions, lamentation, anger, impatience, all these things that have nothing to do with you and nothing to do with the soul. And it's all there. So clear. So it's important for us to come to this platform of actually being able to hear and understand and act on this knowledge. Until you are applying the knowledge, you have not understood yet. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm not like that. I'm just trying to be the peon. I'm just the peon. I'm the mailman. I'm just reading the books because I've been reading them for a very long time, and I'm extremely attached to them. And I'm seeing drifts of things happening as devotees go away from the books and either try to get into some higher topics before they're actually realized, and they stop reading it. Like he was saying, 87th chapter of the 10th canto, Prayers by the Vedas, goes through all of this again in probably the most detail than any other chapter of the books. Then that's after Krishna's pastimes, practically. So therefore we should be well aware of the fact of how important this knowledge is. And we should, if you start to feel depressed or less attracted when you hear it, when you actually hear it, then there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't think there's something wrong with the book or something wrong with the knowledge. Here, something wrong with me, Wake up. Jeev jago, Gora Chandra bole. Wake up, sleeping soul. How long are you going to sleep in the witch of the lap of the witch called Maya? Become jolly. Jolly means you always feel happy. You don't feel sometimes happy and sometimes depressed and sometimes bewildered and sometimes agitated and sometimes this and sometimes that. Those things have nothing to do with us. So who was it I said? Prabhupada was asked, somebody asked Prabhupada, how long does it take to perfect the chanting? Prabhupada said 35 years. What was it we read just recently? Maybe I can remember it. The end of the 11th chapter. I read this with somebody. Who did I read this with? Huh?
11?
Yeah. It was with you I read it. Wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so long before kind of explaining everything.
Yeah. But there was one part, I'm getting things mixed up because, yes. No, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's all mixing up because I'm hearing all these things. Yes, this is it. Listen to this. A devotee is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy. Nirvaraha. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in the history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. Sometimes somebody will walk right up to you and hit you in the face for no apparent reason. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading Krishna consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India, there are also many examples, such as Haridas Thakur Haridas and Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Okay, you ready, right? You ready, right? You sure? Are you ready? Okay. Because they wanted to spread Krishna consciousness, and it's difficult. So don't think that spreading Krishna consciousness is going to be easy. And if it's not easy, if you come up against something that's not easy, don't go away. Don't become depressed. Don't become angry. Don't become bewildered. Don't become confused. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. It doesn't mean that we don't do what we do. We still eat, we still sleep, we go to the bathroom, we, figure out things, we do our duties. take care of our kids. We don't have to stop doing all these things. Go out on sacred time.
What was that verse someone asked for?
11:55 purport. The last verse in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and when Prabhupada gives a very, very nice summary of Krishna consciousness.
There are some questions on yours.
Oh, that is. Wow.
Rati says.
Who?
Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Hare Krishna. You know, Rati goes out by herself in the middle of Amsterdam with her little portable, you know, and just chants. And she does her she's a one girl band. She goes out there and, you know.
Well, that was actually a comment to something else she said, not to read it out loud yet. So I'm going to see if there's another one.
Do you know what you're doing?
It was a long thing, so I thought it was a question, but then she said it was a comment to the devotees. She said not to read it out loud.
Oh, a comment to devotees?
Yes.
I'm a devotee.
Well,
well, maybe I'm not a devotee. Maybe that's the Krishna just told me what the reality is, and I better shape up.
I have to ask her permission if I should read it out loud. She's sending a lot
Is
of
it
hearts.
something she said now, or this was before?
It was just a comment from earlier, and it just says, "Dear St. Louis Houston devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Please do not read this out loud to Maharaj."
Whoa. You're becoming a spy. She's learning diplomacy.
I guess then there's no questions.
She must know after all this time that I don't go back and read those things. You know, I don't have time. Like I've edited all these books, and I don't go back and read all those books. You know, except for the Bhagavatam.
She said, "Okay, but it will embarrass him."
It'll embarrass me. I mean, you want to come sit here?
I'm sorry for exposing you.
I didn't think so. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
I'm going to go now and, you know, get ready to take rest so that I can go. And tomorrow morning, Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to have long recording sessions with Citraketu Prabhu. I'm going to make up for some lost time. So I got to have a voice and be rested and all that stuff. Well, it was nice being with all of you again and again. And it was really lovely purports we heard today. Really lovely purports. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari. See you tomorrow night, or tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon, Central Time. Hare Krishna.